Hi everyone, I hope you are all really well. Today I've had one of those crazy days, but I'm finally getting around to filming. And for those of you who follow me on Instagram at @bbpro_Hannah Martin, you'll have seen that I had to go across London, she says, it's not too far, to get the star of the show, and that is this beautiful chocolate cherry pot rouge. I just love product when it is unused and perfect. Unfortunately, that's not going to last long because this is going to be what I use today on my cheeks and on my lips. So what I'm going to do is recreate the look that I created for the Jenny Packham show I did last weekend at the Oriental Mandarin. And yes, it was a bridal show, and this is a really pretty bridal look, but it's really translatable. You can wear it any time. So I have prepped my skin with a bit of moisturiser, but I'm going to do a little bit more of the hydrating face cream, purely because it's been a little while since I primed my skin. I'm just going to blend that over my face, and the hydrating face cream is just enough to plump up this top layer of skin so that any makeup I apply looks super natural. And what I wanted to create at the show was skin that looks like skin, so not heavily made up skin, but skin that is glowing and fresh, but even in tone, thanks to the Skin foundation stick. Now, one thing I did want to do, as I said, was create a glow to the skin. So I'm going to use some of this gorgeous stuff, the Extra Illuminating Moisture Balm, and just take a little, oh look again, this one's new. Look at me whacking out all my new stuff today. Just a little on the tips of my fingers, and I'm just going to warm that in between my fingers to warm up the cream and in some ways activate it so that by the time I go to apply it to my skin, you'll see it's just a sheer kind of luminosity you can see, and the stunning luminous pearl pigment in this balm creates that gorgeous luster on the skin. But the pigment, or the pearl in this, is they're made up of three colours, gold, red and green, meaning what you never get is that slightly ashy greyish cast that you can get with some illuminators that are purely pink or silver based. It also means that this works as an illuminator on every skin tone. So what I did after I'd got my model's skin glowing with priming cream and illuminating balm was I went straight into a little bit of Skin foundation stick. So my colour currently is the beige. So with my full coverage brush, I'm just going to swipe over the head of the stick because I'm not looking for lots of coverage, and I'm just going to stipple through the centre of my face or anywhere where there's slightly higher colour, just to give a more even looking skin tone. But I want to see my skin through the makeup, and gosh, I don't know if you can see it on camera, but in my mirror here, oh you can, as I turn, can you see that luminous pearl? That there is the illuminating balm. I think lots of women assume that bridal makeup or editorial makeup means loads of makeup, and actually that couldn't be further from the truth. Often less is more. What you want people to say, especially if you're a bride, is, goodness, doesn't her skin look radiant? Not necessarily, oh look at all that lovely foundation. So I'd say that's probably a little less foundation than I would normally wear if I was, you know, going out, as we say here in the UK, but it's just enough, as you can see, to even out my skin tone and not hide that lovely glow from the illuminating balm. Now at the show, Jenny and I really wanted to make sure that the skin with the stick looked just like skin, so I'm bronzing with a deeper shade of Skin Foundation Stick. So I went over the model's cheekbones and higher points of the face with just a little bit of Skin Foundation Stick, again to keep the base as fresh and natural looking as possible, and so I didn't have to layer too much powder over the model's skin, save for a little bit of retouching powder through the T-zone. A lot of you watched my makeup tutorial that I did with my model on my Insta stories and requested this look. So guys, this look is for you. So just a bit of warmth to the higher points of the face. Guys, please note, this certainly isn't what some might call contouring. Contouring is all about trying to create the illusion of shape by doing lines kind of below the cheekbone, etc. Whereas I'm merely trying to bronze and therefore blending on the top of the cheekbone instead of underneath to give not necessarily a sun-kissed illusion, but a slightly warmer, healthier finish, adding a bit of colour where the sun would naturally hit. Once I was happy with my model's Skin Foundation Stick base, I didn't powder immediately. I let it sink and melt into the skin, but then I went in to do some concealer. I'm going to start with my trusty corrector in light to medium bisque. As you all can see, I'm a little dark in the inner corner of my eye. So with the full coverage touch-up brush, I'm merely going to buff a bit of the extra light bisque in the inner corner of my eye. Look at that! Such brightness immediately. Then I'm just going to use my ring finger to blend that corrector into the skin, and it's this patting motion that helps to melt the makeup into the skin. So actually I'm being relatively firm, but it just ensures that you get the most seamless finish from your corrector, and that what you don't see is corrector or concealer heavily layered. And then over the top of that corrector, I'm actually going to use another corrector, and this is the light peach. And I've really been enjoying recently just how bright it really does make the inner corner of my eye, and I found this to be a really successful technique to use on one of the models I had. Now this isn't necessarily a technique for everyone, but it was something that someone did to me on set last year. So you'll see, look at that. For brightness under the eye. This one almost looks bruised. Let's get rid of that, shall we? Honestly, it's magic. Look at it. Okay, next I'm going to start working on the eyes. Again, I just want to let all of the Skin Foundation Stick just melt into my skin a little longer. So brows, I love to do a natural looking brow with powder. So here I have my trusty, apologies slightly mucky, dark brow kit. So you've got the two colours, got Saddle and Mahogany, and most often on myself I'll do most of my brow using the Saddle, then I'll go through the slightly deeper colour Mahogany just to add any extra definition if I feel my brows need it. Just going to brush up my brows using a spoolie, which we have on the end of this Fab Brow Groomer brush, so spoolie at one end and definer at the other. Then with the brow brush I'm going to dip into the Saddle first and then start filling in my brow. I actually like to start at the head. Unlike most people, I am slightly more sparse at the head of my brow, so I like to start filling in that area first. Very gently, just brushing up in little strokes. What you didn't see is I tapped into the saddle colour and then I tapped the brush into the mirror, and that's just to ensure I don't have too much pigment on my brush when I first go into my brow, because I want this shadow to be almost undetectable. Then I start filling in the top line of my brow from the head to the arch, and then I just pull down from the head of my brow to the tail. And my tails are not a real tail, the tails of my brows are slightly slim, on the slim side, so I like just to fill that area out a little bit. But for those of you who watched my story behind the scenes at Jenny Packham, you'll have seen that it was a really nice, quite light and fluffy brow. But look at the difference a little bit of shadow makes. Fab. So now the brows are in place, let's move on to the eye makeup. Now, I created 2 looks at the Jenny Packham show, both of which I had lots of comments about, but the most popular seemed to be the one with the chocolate cherry cheek and lip and the slightly bronzy eye. And actually what I love about a bronze eye is that not only does it look incredible and complements hazel eyes, but it looks fantastic against green or blue eyes because it's such a beautifully contrasting tone. So if you're ever unsure about choosing an eyeshadow colour, bronze or variations of bronze really do suit most eye colours, or actually it does, it suits all eye colours. So I'm going to use the stunning Golden Bronze Longwear Cream Shadow Stick. As well as the Longwear Cream Shadow Stick, I've made up here a 3-pan palette with the other colours. So ivory for brightening under the brow bone, taupe powder for the crease, and the allspice shadow for on top of the golden bronze. Let's do the golden bronze first, shall we? So straight from the bullet, I'm just going to sweep the Golden Bronze Longwear Cream Shadow Stick all along the base of the lid. You all know I love Beach Bronze, but Golden Bronze is just a slightly cooler Longwear bronze shadow. Then with a touch-up brush, I'm just going to buff and sheer out the Golden Bronze all over the lid. And this is a really great step again for not only blending the shadow but making sure you haven't applied too much. Now I'm going to take some of the Golden Bronze still on my touch-up brush. So from the bullet I'm just taking a little bit of the Golden Bronze onto my touch-up brush, and that I'm going to sweep under my lower lash line as I did at the show, just to create a little bit of Longwear liner along the lower lashes. But then to help that colour bleed even further, I'm going to use the taupe shadow with an eyeshadow brush. So I'm going to tap into the taupe, work the powder into the brush, and start sweeping just through the crease of the eye. And this is to ensure that you get a really pretty blend of the bronze over the lid, kind of bleeding up through the crease, and then the soft warmth of that pretty golden taupe tone coming up through the crease. And when you're doing a crease colour yourself, my advice, or our advice at Bobbi Brown, is always ensure that the crease colour isn't too overpowering. But as you can see, I've got my eyes open and I'm just taking the brush and sweeping it through the crease of my eye. And actually having your eye open will be really helpful because you'll see in the mirror exactly the area of skin that you want to add a little bit of pigment to. And I'll take a little of the same colour just below my lower lash line. And the idea with this is that it's really super soft and not a hard line by any means, but that underneath any mascara I do, you can see a little bit of a shadow. Pretty. So now that the golden bronze is done, I'm going to move on to a little bit of black ink gel eyeliner. Here it is, one of my black ink gel eyeliners. And with this I'm going to use this with an ultra fine eyeliner brush. Let me zoom in though so you can see. Why do I always zoom out when I say I'm going to zoom in? Okay, can you see a bit better? So I'm just going to load my brush with some gel, and then whilst looking down into my mirror, just going to push that gel into the root of the lashes all the way along the lash line. Oh look, eyelash Make-A-Wish. So all the way into the inner corner of the eye, and at this point I'm not looking for it to be a particularly thick line. My main goal is just to make sure that it gets into the root of the lashes, and then once I'm happy it goes from one extent of my eye to the other. I'm going to use the Smokey liner brush and just buff the edge. And you all know that this is one of my favourite techniques for ensuring that gel eyeliner looks as soft and subtle as possible, and I particularly like this technique for weddings because sometimes I find a romantic eye shouldn't have any hard edges. But of course, if you love a strong, bold liner, then by all means go for it. But for this look, it was very much a case of softening the edge. So as you can see here, that liner is diffusing up the lid. So whilst you're zoomed, stay there my darlings, I'm just going to highlight my brow bone using a bit of the ivory shadow. So with an angled shadow brush, I'm just going to push into the ivory colour and then press it under my brow bone, and this will just help to give a little bit of lift to the brow, and it photographs really beautifully when you have a little bit of light from under the brow. But what you can see I'm doing here, I'm just pushing the shadow into the skin. Then when I'm happy I've got plenty, I simply sweep away any excess powder. Okay, so we've zoomed back out for a minute. Now I can't work out how zoomed I was before. Let's leave it at that, shall we? And I shall apply some of the fabulous Smokey Eye Mascara as I did to the models on Saturday. So I'm just pushing the mascara into the base of my lashes and then wiggling through and fluffing the tips for a pretty fanned effect. But the wiggling at the base of the lashes helps to push each lash in between each bristle, which means I then get a really good coating of mascara. Let me zoom in again. That was my bad. Sorry if any of you get seasick. But you can see how very quickly we've got really good volume on that Smokey Eye Mascara. Do I need any more Mazzy? That's the question. Okay, Then the final step of the eyes was this beautiful Allspice sparkle shadow. So simply with my ring finger, I'm going to press into the sparkle and then sweep a little over my lid for a gorgeous hint of light. So it's really just a finishing touch with the sparkle shadow. If you're not really into sparkles, then you can just omit this part of the look. I am obsessed with sparkles, so it's one of my favourite bits. Just so you can see up close. And I'll zoom out a bit again so we get a better picture of the entire look coming together. Okay, so that's concealer, base and eyes done, and brows. So I'm just going to use a little bit of retouching powder. So I'm just going to use a little bit of retouching powder, can't tell if that's the right way up or not, through my T-zone. I'm using the peach colour today, just because I don't need the colour correcting property of the yellow, and the white is a little too bright on my skin tone. But with the angled face brush, I'm just going to buff between my brows, over my nose, and my chin, for a brilliantly mattified finish, but one that photographs really well. You'll notice I haven't done too much over my cheeks. That's because I want to keep that area free of powder because I want it to glow, but that is where I'm going to be using my pot rouge. Okay, so here it is, the pièce de résistance, chocolate cherry pot rouge. How I love thee. Some people assume that this is purely for women of a deeper, warmer skin tone, but actually this looks great on all skin tones, not least a porcelain skin. I love this on porcelain skin, freckles and red hair. It looks stunning. So with my trusty full coverage face brush, I'm just going to dip into the chocolate cherry. I always like to pat it into the back of my hand so I know that I'm loading the brush with pigment and I don't have too much pigment sitting on the head of my brush, and then simply buff it into the apple of my cheek and blend back to meet my bronzer for a really pretty berryish tone on the cheek. We can still see that glow from underneath that we created with the balm. Okay, and then for the look, I used the very same chocolate cherry pot rouge on the lip as well. And I'm just patting it on with my finger. And there we have it. The makeup look I created for the Jenny Peckham bridal event. So guys, I hope that was fun. I hope it was cool for you all to see how more of a reddy berry blush translates on cheeks and lips, something a little bit different. Any questions, don't hesitate to leave them in the comments below. And yeah, take care of yourselves and I shall see you all very soon. Thanks guys, loads of love. Bye.